do you mind telling me a bit about yourself? Maybe where you had your basic education, senior high, all the way to university.
Yeah, so I grew up in Accra, Demarcon specifically, in a military barracks.
Okay.
And I happened to go to Kotoka Basic School. Then from there, I went to Laboni Senior High School where I studied business. But then I had a mix of elective math and all of that because prior to going to Laboni, I was contemplating doing science. But then I ended up not doing science. So I ended up in a business. I was like, okay, let's do elective math just in case I want to switch someday.
Okay.
So after Laboni Senior High School, I went to Legon where I studied psychology. So I do have a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology.
Okay.
Then I stayed on for a 1 year teaching assistant position. After that, I went to Norway to do a master's in neuroscience.
Okay.
Then after my master's, I landed in McGill University where I'm currently doing a PhD in neuroscience.
All right. Okay. That's interesting. So, having a background in business, that's for your high school education, how easy was it for you transitioning into a psychology program? I don't know the requirements, but then could business students or can business students actually enroll in that program?
So for Legon is a little bit flexible with respect to I should say, not maybe the humanities. They're a bit flexible with the humanities.
Okay.
So irrespective of your background, there's some level of flexibility which should allow you to gain admission to study psychology, to study political science, to study social work. So with those courses that are not like strictly science-based, like kind of social science, so not strictly like hardcore like physical science,
Mhm.
those courses there's some flexibility. So irrespective of your background, you can do visual arts or whatever, you can still get a chance to get admitted onto those programs.
Okay. And you said after Legon, you worked as a teaching assistant. So
Yeah,
that was for your national service, right?
yeah, yeah. So that was my national service for 1 year.
All right. And was that in the same department?
Yeah, I was in the same department. So my department has a setup where they retain some students. So
Okay.
I hear the top 10 or 5%. I don't really know how true that is, but they do retain some students. So they make a request to the National Service Secretariat and retain a few students who stay on as teaching assistants at the department for 1 year.
Okay, so if you consider your work as a teaching assistant, this out of curiosity, is there like any special benefit for you working as a teaching assistant compared to any other person who has been posted elsewhere for their national service?
Yeah, I think it depends on so many things. If you know exactly what you want to do. So for someone like me, I knew I wanted to stay in academia. Like that was even as at the time, like I was in level 100, I knew like I wanted to stay in academia. So
Okay.
for someone like me, wanting to stay in academia it's a lot easier for you to like it paves the way for you because so you get to interact with the professors, you get to know them on a personal level. So if they're let's say you're applying to grad school and you need recommendation letters, they're likely to write very personalized letters for you, which can help you. And it also gives you a window into like the intricacies of academic work because now you're working closely with a professor. So you get a better feel of how it is. So you get to make an informed decision as to if you really want to stay in there or like you really want to go out. So for me, I think it helps if you want to stay in academia. But if you're not very sure of what you want to do, it could still be good. But if you know you want to do something that has nothing to do with academia, I think it may not necessarily be too much of like a benefit. Even though like you get a chance to like practice your public speaking because you'll be taking on some classes.
Mhm.
You get to practice synthesizing literature because you would have to help the professors with like literature review and all of that. So on a broader scale, it helps. But more specifically, if you want to stay in academia, it will be really good for you.
All right. And you said after that you went to Norway to do your master's.
Yeah.
So going there, was it on scholarship or you paid out of pocket?
So yeah, so for me, it was on scholarship. So I had a full scholarship from the Norwegian government. So they had this quota scheme scholarship for developing countries,
Okay.
which I think it started in 2001,
Okay.
but they put a hold on it as of 2016.
Okay.
So it's not in force at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yes, it was a full scholarship, very generous grant. And so yeah,
All right. And so how many years was your master's?
my master's was 2 years, so 1 year coursework, interlaced with research work, but then the second year was fully dedicated to research work.
All right. And then After your master's, did you work or you went directly into the PhD program?
So after my master's, I worked for 1 year.
Okay,
So I stayed on. So my lab retained me as a research assistant
okay,
for 1 year. So I stayed on, did some experiments for 1 year. Then afterwards, I moved on to my job.
all right. So before I come to the PhD, when you were applying to the school you went to in Norway, one, how did you hear about the school in the first place? And two, the scholarship too, how did you hear about it? And if you had to consider the two, how was the entire application process? What documents did you need to submit?
I think for the school, I think I heard of the scholarship before the school. So it's kind of like a tied-in package.
Okay,
So the school has programs that are funded.
okay,
So then I heard that there was a quota scheme scholarship
okay,
from there that was being given at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology.
okay,
So I looked up the what do you call it, the school's website. I checked the courses that were funded,
okay,
and I saw a course that I was interested in. So but I heard it from people. I heard it from friends. I heard it from. But now there are more efficient ways of finding out where to get scholarships.
hmm,
Like you can follow pages like scholarship positions. Like they send weekly newsletters on scholarships, and I've been scanning through them. Like they are legit. They are not like randomly generated
hmm,
scholarship positions. They're
okay,
actually positions that exist. So yeah, so I heard about it. It was tied into the application package, and it wasn't very surprisingly, it wasn't very complicated. It was
okay,
like a 2-page document you had to fill.
okay,
And you didn't have to write like a 10-page essay about why you want to do a master's. It was very, very simple. And you had to attach reference letters. So that is where knowing professors comes in handy, like
okay.
reference letters and all of that. So it was very basic stuff, like something you can put together in a day or two. So it was pretty easy to apply for the Norwegian quota scheme scholarship.
All right. And then now let's come to the PhD. So when you were applying for your PhD, what was the application like? Did you need to write to professors before, or you just had to submit an application? And what documents did you submit there also?
I think generally for most grad schools, grad school is essentially research work. So like more specifically for PhD. So for most schools, McGill included, you have to make contacts with a professor.
Okay.
So once you secure a professor who is willing to supervise you as a student, then you can go ahead to apply to
Okay.
the school.
Okay.
So that is how it works. You make contact with a professor, you tell him what you want to do, you attach your CV, you tell him what you've done and how your background ties into what he does. And it's always good to read his work and like have a feel of what he does. So you give him the impression, not the impression, so you actually show that you are interested in what he does. Because if you want to work with him and you don't know his work, then what's the point?
Okay.
So yeah,
Uh,
so read a couple of papers and then attach a CV, shoot it to the professor. If he's willing to have a conversation with you, then you can go ahead with the application process.
all right. So when you applied for the program, um, your funding, was it the school or the professor was the one that was taking care of it?
So for McGill University and specifically for my department, you are not allowed to fund yourself.
Okay.
So the professor must fund you from his research grants.
Okay.
So yeah, so essentially, once the supervisor agrees to supervise you, he has more or less agreed to
To
fund
fund you.
you as well.
Okay.
So that won't be your headache.
Okay.
But I don't know for other programs, but for the neuroscience program, once you get admission, once you get a supervisor and you get admission, you have secure funding.
Okay. And then the funding, what does it entail? What does it cover?
So usually, I think even if you go on McGill's website, you can actually like I think they have it. They have it up there. Like they have the minimum stipends and all of that.
Okay.
So that's essentially what you're going to need to pay your school fees. Because what happens in McGill is you still have to pay school fees even though you're in grad school.
Okay.
It's a bit different in Europe, like Norway specifically, because in Norway you don't have to pay tuition fees.
Okay.
So your stipend is like your money for your upkeep.
Mm-hmm.
But then in Canada, you have to pay for your school fees. You pay for your tuition and you pay
Okay.
for the other things, the accommodation and your living expenses, basically.
Okay. And so how is the a PhD program in your school, did you have to take any coursework, or you just started with the research when you go into the program?
So here you have to take 12 credits.
Okay.
So that's like if you're taking 3 credits courses, then that should be like 4 courses.
Okay.
But you can take it at any point in your PhD. So it's
Okay.
not, you don't necessarily have to take it in your first year, in your second year, in your third year. You can distribute it like randomly across. But you have to make sure you finish that to be eligible to actually graduate.
Right. And then let me go back a bit. So in Norway, did you need to learn any other language, or the mode of communication and instructions was mainly in English?
So I think some courses are taught in Norwegian.
Okay.
But then when you go to the school's website, it's clearly stated the courses that are taught in English, and they do have a lot of courses that are taught in English, quite a
Okay.
lot.
Okay.
So usually the language is not so much of a problem, unless you want to study something that is taught in Norwegian. But it's just a handful, not so many courses.
All right. So everything was in English.
Yeah, so the language of instruction was essentially English. For my course, it was fully English.
All right. And then when I'm going back to your masters, when you applied, how long did it take for you to hear from them? And with your visa application, your flight ticket, everything, did the school take care of it, or you had to pay for them by yourself?
So for the Norwegian University so for NTNU, so that's the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, you had to pay upfront for your visa process and everything, and then you buy your flights. But then when you go there, you get reimbursed for your flight.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
But then you have to pay for it yourself, like
All
to get there.
right.
But then when you get there, you get reimbursed. So that wasn't so much of a problem. Then with the visa process, it took. So the scholarship took a while. I don't really remember how long, but it wasn't so long. But it took a while. It took a couple of months to get feedback.
Okay.
But I don't remember the specific timeline, but it took a while.
Okay.
But less than a year, a few months, just a couple of months.
Okay.
And the visa application was also pretty smooth. You had to go in for just a very short interview, and it was very brief. It was very brief, very smooth. Like it wasn't any complicated process where you had to go answer difficult questions and all of that.
And so for both your PhD and your masters, did you ever need the services of an agent or anyone to help you with the application, to help you with your visa, your accommodation when you come to whichever country we're going to, or you did everything entirely by yourself?
So with NTNU, they have a system in place where international students have some kind of priority with accommodation. Okay. So they make a few offers,
okay.
And you get to pick where you want to go stay. So you don't necessarily have to get someone to do any groundwork for you, okay. Unless maybe you have a couple of friends and you want to go rent a house, split the bill.
Okay.
Then you could do that, but then they had a system in place, so it wasn't about something that I had to think about.
Okay.
But for my applications, I did it by myself. I always tell people, if you have internet, you can read. Like most of these things, if you go around, check a few websites, read. You can navigate your way around. Talk to people who have been through the process, and it can make it a lot easier for you as opposed to paying someone to do it. Fine, you can choose to pay someone to do it, but I never paid anyone to do any of the applications for me, or not visa, not admission, not scholarship applications. What I did was probably send my applications to people to proofread it, my professors or my friends in academia to proofread it to make sure it makes sense and is convincing enough. But besides that, all my applications were done just by myself. I didn't have to consult anyone.
All right. And then also in Canada, did you sit for any interview during the application or your admission process?
No. So the admission process, it's more like so the admission process is in two. So you get a professor to approve, then you need to meet the school's minimum requirements. Once you meet the school's minimum requirements, you're essentially through.
Okay.
So they're not going to interview or anything of that. So the interview comes with a professor, okay, where maybe you would want to have a face-to-face interaction with you. It may not it's usually not an interview per se. It's like a chat. So okay. It's usually very informal, where the professor tries to get to know you, get to know your background. So beyond what you've stated on your CV, the professor wants to talk to you and get to know more.
Okay.
And it's not usually a question and answer session. It's a conversation style.
Okay. And then taking your school in particular, taking it into consideration, how easy is it for someone with just an undergrad an undergrad degree to enroll into the PhD program over there?
Yeah, so McGill has that so you can actually apply. So you can actually apply straight into the graduate program and
Okay.
then do a master's for I think 1 year, and then
Okay.
you can switch, you can fast track to a PhD. So they have
Oh,
that.
okay. All right.
So
So you can. So in that case, will you apply into the PhD program, or you apply for a master's, then you would switch it to a PhD whilst in the
I think they have two streams. So they have a stream where you can apply to the department. Like, so with that stream, you need to like have very good like academic credentials, like good grades, possibly a publication or what have you. You can apply using that route. You can go through the school.
Okay.
Then the school admits you and puts you on a rotation program.
Okay.
So then on the rotation program, it's expected at the end of your rotation, you would find a supervisor who would be willing to take you on. So with that setup, the university will pay you for your rotation period.
Okay. All right. And so with your PhD also, what are you currently studying? What are you looking at?
Which version do you want? Do you want the version for the class?
I
The
want
class.
the version for everyone, the the
Oh,
version that everyone would understand.
so essentially, I study spatial navigation in blind and vision rehabilitated animal models.
Okay.
And essentially, my research is geared towards understanding how restored vision can be reintegrated into the brain's navigational system to help people with normal navigation following vision after they recover from vision loss.
Okay. So you talking about models? What kind of models? Are you looking at models of maybe congenital blindness or blindness where people acquired it later in life? And also, are you
So I'm
looking
looking
at
at
people? Are you looking at people who have probably their brain, their visual cortex intact, or if there's any trauma, anything there, you are still looking at such models?
so just so you know the model, I'm using mouse model. So I'm using a rodent model.
Okay.
So currently I'm looking at both. So the first two you mentioned, I'm looking at congenitally blind models
Okay.
and late onset blindness. So I'm using the
Okay.
RD1 for the late onset blindness, and I'm using there's this new line, the GNAT line,
Okay.
a mutation in I think the transducing unit.
Okay.
The
Okay.
problem with the photo.
Photo transaction. Okay. All right.
So I'm using those two lines. So one is born blind because of that mutation, and one
Okay.
goes blind at P28. So that's like a couple of weeks.
Weeks. Yeah. 28 days.
Which I experience has had, what do you call it? It's the network is already established, like the
Mhm.
pathways, the vision
To the
pathways.
brain. Yeah.
Yeah. But then with the congenitally blind mice, they have not seen before, so it's very likely like the pathways are not well established. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm looking at those two models.
Oh, that's interesting. And so, finally, what do you have to tell your junior colleagues in Legon who are also pursuing their undergrad in psychology, or even those also doing arts or business in senior high school? What do you have to tell them? That's if they want to be in academia. What do you have for them?
I think basically, if you want to be in academia, it's always good to. It may be difficult to know exactly what you want to do, but broadly, you can know if you want to do something psychology, if you want to do something, there's something that's so. So let's say if you should seize every opportunity you get to get close to professors, like to get to know the inner workings of how all these things work. And moving on, I think in Ghana it's a bit restrictive as to like you can't move around fields like I have done. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't jump from business, go to psychology, like go to hard biological science.
Neuroscience.
It
Yeah.
can be really difficult. So for someone who wants to like follow this path, you should be considering schooling outside of Ghana.
Okay.
And to do that, it's a lot of hard work, which
Okay.
sometimes people don't want to do. Because like, I get people contacting me and they go like, "Can you send me scholarships?"
Okay.
It's a lot of work because like
Okay.
first you need to narrow down on the continent you're considering,
Okay.
narrow down schools that
Okay.
offer the program you're interested in,
Okay.
check if the schools have scholarships.
Okay.
So it's like it's got multi-layers, and you're going to have to repeat this for several continents,
Mm-hmm.
like several schools, several
Okay.
departments.
Okay.
So once you see a place that is like you would want, it's always good to cast your nets wide, like throw the applications, throw as many as possible. Like I can't count the number of applications I threw out when I was like applying for grad school.
Okay.
Like I'm telling you, and I lost count.
Okay.
Because like the more you throw out, the higher the chances of like getting quality feedback because you're going to send some emails. You won't always get a reply from a professor. Like sometimes they'll just not reply. Maybe they've forgotten or maybe they're not interested. So it just takes a lot of perseverance. And I think I'm just starting on this path. So I don't know what the future looks like, but
Okay.
I'm pretty positive about it and I'm happy doing this because that's what I want to do. So I think for people who want to follow this path, it just takes a lot more perseverance. And if you're considering switching fields, consider leaving the country and like being very like persevering a lot with your applications and definitely it will pull through because like it pulls through.
Okay, so a quick one before I end. You just mentioned writing to professors. So let me ask from your experience, what about those who, let's say in a particular school, in a particular department, probably they write to Professor A, they don't get reply, so they write to Professor B, no reply, Professor C. When you do that, does it affect your chances that you're writing to different professors in the same department, or it doesn't matter?
I don't think so. It depends. So let's say if what the professor study is very divergent,
Okay, okay.
then eh, I don't know that. So let's say the professors talk to each other, right? There's a
Uh-huh.
chance that they have a conversation and they are like, oh, this student contacted me from Ghana or the US or whatever, and he wanted to work with me. And the other professor is going, oh, he also contacted me. And
Okay.
like, if what you're studying is very divergent, it gives the impression you don't really know what you want. And I don't know any
All right.
professor who wants to work with a student who doesn't know what he wants to do.
All right.
So if it's kind of like closely related, like
Okay.
not super closely related, but if it's kind of related, then it doesn't matter. The professors know they are not the only ones you're contacting. They know you're contacting a million
Other
others.
people. Okay.
But given that what they are studying is not very divergent, I think it doesn't interfere with your chances. You still keep your odds.
All right. All right. All right. Thank you very much, Kadjita, for spending time with me and sharing your experiences. I'm very grateful, and I'm pretty sure that those who would watch it would also be very grateful to you for your time. And thank you very much.
Pleasure.